my name is Melissa van Dijk, and in this video I'm going to show you a full in-depth demonstration on my face on how to use the Ordinary Pycnogenol 5%, which is a powerful antioxidant that enhances skin hydration, rebuilds skin elasticity, and it has anti-inflammatory and photoprotective properties. Now, Pygnogenol is an anhydrous solution which you're going to apply before oils and creams, but after your water-based serums. Now, Pygnogenol can be used in the morning and evening on a daily basis. And as you can see, it also has a beautiful reddish color, which makes sure that whenever you're done with the application to also wash your hands, as it also can stain on fabric, which we definitely don't want. Now, when using the Ordinary Pycnogenol, it's also important that you're not going to use in the same routine, for example, the Ordinary Buffet Copper Peptides, or any other products that contain copper peptides, since this is the only product and also the only ingredient that Pygnogenol has conflicts with it. So if you're going to use Pygnogenol and Buffet Copper Peptides, please also make sure to use them at separate times. For example, Pygnogenol in the morning and the Buffet Copper Peptides in the evening. So now that you also know the main information, let me also show you how you can do a proper patch test before you're going to apply it to your face. Doing a patch test before you're going to apply the product to your face can already help you to identify if you're sensitive to the product before you're going to use it all over your face. Now, before we're going to apply a product to the upper forearm area, it's important that you're going to clean this area. So take a bit of soap and water and wash the area. Now grab a fresh towel and pat the skin dry. So now that we have cleaned the upper forearm area, we now can also do the patch test. Now, when using Pygnogenol, I recommend using a very small amount, and since you can't get less than a drop, I also recommend using a bit on your fingertip. And then use a small amount. And then go ahead and also apply it to the freshly washed area. Now give it a moment until it also has fully soaked into the skin, and you're going to leave the Pygnogenol on that area for 24 hours. Now I repeat, please make sure that you're not getting in contact with any fabric, as it also can stay. And also make sure that you're going to keep this area dry for 24 hours. So after the 24 hours have passed, you now can also rinse the area with water only. There's no cleanser or soap needed. And again, pat the skin dry with a towel. Now, if you can see any redness, burning, itching, blistering or other irritation during the 24-hour patch test, please make sure to not use the product on your face and discontinue using it. If no irritation is observed, we are now ready to also move on to the application when also using it on your face. So here I am, and I'm now ready to show you how to use Pygnogenol on your face. As Pygnogenol can be used in so many different ways, which I also want to cover in this part. And you can use Pygnogenol alone, you can also include it in your skincare routine or mix it with other treatments, such as for example vitamin C. And so, since it's a little bit overwhelming and it seems like it's being too much, I'm going to keep it very simple, and we're going to go through it step by step so that you also understand how you can use it. But before we're going to get started with the application, I just want to remind you onto step number 1, which is always washing your face with a suitable cleanser for your skin type. to remove any excess oil, dirt, sweat, leftovers of your makeup, as well as dead skin cells. And this way you're making sure that you also have a freshly washed and clean face before moving on to any other skincare products. Now I have already washed my face. I also skipped you this step so that I can really keep the focus towards Pycnogenol. Now, in case you want to use it alone and keep it pretty simple and straightforward, what you can do is go ahead, wash your face with a gentle cleanser, pat the skin dry, and then immediately move on to the Pycnogenol application. This is how simple it can be. Or if you want to include it in your skincare routine and you also want to layer them properly, I recommend you to follow the general rule of thumb, which always starts off with water-based serums. Then you're going to move on to any anhydrous solutions and oil formulations, and then you're going to move on to any creams such as your moisturizer and also suspensions. And it's also recommended to use no more than 3 serums formulations in a single routine for optimal skin penetration, which basically means that use only 3 of those little bottles or less, but no more than those 3 little bottles in a skincare routine so that you also will get most out of it when also applying it to your face. And so in case you also use or have a routine and you want to include Pycnogenol into your routine and you also want to know how you can properly layer them, you can start off with the water-based serums as I just mentioned, such as for example the Ordinary hyaluronic acid. And with most of the Ordinary products, when it comes to their serums, I recommend using 1 to 3 drops for the entire face and neck area. Of course, if you want to use a few drops more, that's totally fine, as not everyone has the same size of face, but still make sure that you're not using too much and that the product is still able to also sink into the skin. So I'm going to stick with 2 drops when also applying hyaluronic acid. And the way that you're going to apply it to your face is totally up to you. I like to use a few drops in the palm of my hand and then start patting it into the skin with most of the Ordinary serums. If you prefer to use your fingertips for it, that's totally fine. If you also prefer to use directly a few drops onto your face and then blend it into the skin, that's totally fine as well. Just make sure that you also find a method that also works best for you. And after you have applied your water-based serum, you're going to leave it on the skin, and you can also immediately move on to the next product application. Now, since hyaluronic acid is a water-based serum, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is the Ordinary Pycnogenol. Pycnogenol is an anhydrous solution which is going to be applied after the water-based serums, but before any oils and creams. So again, with Pycnogenol, use around 1 to 3 drops. If you feel the need to use more, that's totally fine. Now, in case you want to use Pycnogenol as well as like on its own without any other serums, that's totally fine as well. Again, stick with 1 to 3 drops or use more if you need to. Now I'm going to stick with 2 drops. Again, the way that you're going to apply it to your face is totally up to you. Just make sure that you're able to also apply it evenly all over your face and neck area. And then gently apply it to your face. Now I just wanted to remind you, after you're done with the application of Pycnogenol, go ahead, wash your hands or take a cloth which you know that can also get dirty, because Pycnogenol can stain, especially if you have, like for example, a white fabric going on, such as also my shirt. So you will see it if you're not being careful with it. That's why I recommend to immediately go ahead and wash your hands. Then after Pycnogenol, you can also go ahead and use, for example, an oil if you want to finish it off with an oil and that's it. Or you can also go ahead and add an oil and your moisturizer, or just stick with the moisturizer. That's totally fine. Whatever your skin prefers, whatever you prefer, go ahead and do so. So I'm going to only stick with the moisturizer. If you would use an oil, again, use around 1 to 3 drops. If you want to use more, that's totally fine. With a moisturizer, use around 1 pea size amount for the entire face and neck area and apply it on top of a Pycnogenol if you feel the need to. You don't have to use a moisturizer or oil afterwards. If you only want to stick with water-based serum and Pycnogenol, that's totally fine as well. And then go ahead and gently apply it all over your face. Now, as already mentioned, pycnogenol can be used daily in the morning and evening, or you can also just use it once a day, whatever you prefer. If you're going to use it in the morning and you're being exposed to the sun, then I also recommend as your last step to also don't forget to also protect your skin and use a good sunscreen afterwards. Pycnogenol actually protects the skin, but depending on for how long you're being in the sun, you still don't want to get sunburned and protect the skin. I highly recommend also using a good sunscreen afterwards when being exposed to the sun, and not only on your face, but everywhere where the skin is being exposed to the sun. Now, this could be a very simple routine, straightforward. Keep in mind the order on how you can also layer them. But not only that, it's not only about layering it with pycnogenol, but you can also mix it with other treatments. And pycnogenol does extremely well with vitamin C products. I'm going to stick with the ordinary products since they have different vitamin C products going on. So they also have like an anhydrous solution, vitamin C, they have the powder, they also have, for example, the suspension. So they have different formats of vitamin C products. So depending on what you're going to use and how you're going to mix it, you may also need to be a little bit more mindful on how many drops you're going to need of pycnogenol. Now I'm going to start off with the powder because I believe this is more like the most complicated part of all the other formulations. So they do have the ascorbic acid powder, which is the vitamin C powder. And they also give you a little spoon with it. And they also do recommend using about a half to a quarter spoonful of the powder. And the best way to also mix it, if you want to mix pycnogenol with any other skincare products, is also in the palm of your hands, so that it also isn't as messy. So I'm going to add the powder to my hand, and then if you're using it with vitamin C powder, use about 5 to 10 drops of pycnogenol. For me personally, 10 drops is quite a lot. I like to stick with 5 drops, and I feel like this is kind of like the right mixture for me and also to apply it on my face. So what you can do is experiment and see how many drops you will need for your mixture and also what is enough. I'm going to stick with 5. So, and then you can also go ahead and start mixing it. And then once it's nicely mixed, you can also go ahead, use it between your hands and start applying it all over your face and neck area. Again, once you're done, please also don't forget to also remove it with any leftovers so that you're not going to stain any fabric. Now this is how you could also mix it with the ascorbic acid powder. However, there are different formulations, and you can also mix it, for example, with water-based serums. If you find that with certain water-based serums it doesn't really mix well because it's an anhydrous solution, I recommend using them separate and layering them instead of mixing them. I like, for example, the mixture with pycnogenol and hyaluronic acid. That works well for me. Or you can also use other anhydrous solutions, such as, for example, the ethylated vitamin C. You can also mix it with your oil, as well as also with your moisturizer or suspension. That's totally fine. So whatever you have at home, and also with whatever you also want to mix it, I wanted to demonstrate, how many drops you need and also the size in case you also want to use the moisturizer for it. Now I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going to take an oil so that we have a little bit more of a different thing going on. Again, usually with the ordinary serums and also oils, I like to recommend 1 to 3 drops. With an oil, I know that when I'm using the oil alone, I like to stick with 2 drops. So I'm going ahead and using 2 drops. Then also the amount of pycnogenol, for me personally, 2 drops are enough when I'm using it alone. So I'm going to stick with 2 drops. And then you can also go ahead and mix it. And you can mix it with your water-based serum, you can mix it with any anhydrous solution or the oil as I'm just currently doing. And once you're done with the mixture, you can also go ahead and apply it evenly all over your face and neck area. Now depending on what product you want to use, I recommend starting off with less, in case so that you can also experiment with it before you're going to add more, because I'd rather have less product on my hand, but I still can apply it evenly all over my face and neck area rather than having too much and I'm going to waste so much product. So I recommend starting off with 1 to 3 drops of the one product that you want to use or serum that you want to use, and then 1 to 3 drops of the Pygnogenol, and see what's the right balance for you, as this also depends on your skin and also how it absorbs the product. Now, if you want to use either, for example, the vitamin C suspension or your moisturizer, something that has like a cream-like texture or gel, I recommend going with one pea-size amount, which is also enough for the entire face and neck area. And then again, go ahead and use how many drops you would usually use when also applying it alone to your skin, so that you're making sure to have the right balance. So I'm going to use the moisturizer, pea-size amount, and then I'm going to add 2 drops of Pygnogenol. And then again, you can also go ahead and mix it as well. And then once you're done with the mixture, again, go ahead, use it between your hands and apply it evenly all over your face and neck area. So this is how you can use it with the different serums, with the different oils, as well as also the powder and also the cream. So that I just want to make sure to show you everything, and everyone has to find the right balance. So I still recommend using less instead of using more, just in case. You always can add more if you feel the need to, but it's a little bit more difficult to reduce the amount of it when already having it mixed. So now that that's being done, I want to mention that mainly Pygnogenol can be used with any other serums. I wouldn't recommend it mixing it with a direct acid, such as, for example, glycolic acid or lactic acid, since those are exfoliators, which you would be applied before your leave-on water-based serums. But in case you also want to mix it with niacinamide and you also want to include a vitamin C, like a pure form or ethylated form of vitamin C into your routine, please make sure to also use them separate. Or let's say you want to use niacinamide as your first water-based serum, and then you want to mix, for example, Pygnogenol with the vitamin C powder. Please do not use them in the same routine. Use them separate, as niacinamide has conflicts with pure ethylated forms of vitamin C. So you can mix it also with niacinamide if you like to, but just don't use a pure form of vitamin C in the same routine. So this is where it gets complicated. Also, again, don't mix it or use it in the same routine with the ordinary Buffet Copper Peptides or any other skincare products that include copper peptides, as those have conflicts as well. Yeah, so that's basically it. I told you it's quite a lot. I hope that I could also break it down into steps so that you also can follow it. Again, you can use it alone in your skincare routine in the sense of layering the product, or also mix it with other treatments. And yeah, this is also what I wanted to share with you. I also do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well as share it. And I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!